Merry Christmas. You should be watching this on Christmas Day. And it's a little ghost story for you all. Sheffield always looks a little different at Christmas. It's like the hills hold a secret. The air smells of frost and chestnuts roasting upon an open fire. And if you're out late enough, after the office parties, after the pubs have rung last orders, you might find yourself waiting for a tram that shouldn't exist. Our story starts on a Christmas Eve in the 1990s. It was just after 11 at the stop near Hillsborough Park. Now, anyone from Sheffield will tell you this. The trams don't run all night. Trams don't run that well at all, to be honest, but I digress. Every year, more or less, someone somewhere on the tram networks swears that they've caught a tram that shouldn't exist. A few years back, it was this lad called Martin. He'd missed his bus home, a bit too much mulled wine at the office party, and he didn't think to check the timetables. He thought the trams had stopped, and it was a really cold, icy night. As he was walking what should have been a long walk back, he heard it. It was a low electric hum, the sound of a tram approaching. As he looked down, the tram rolled in. It was an old green and cream thing. It was a double-decker with an upstairs and a downstairs. It wasn't the sleek modern trams that he was expecting, because Sheffield, we'd just got these brand new trams in that we've still got now, albeit somewhat refurbished. He stepped aboard the tram though. He was just glad of a quicker way home, and there was quite a few passengers on the tram. They all looked to be dressed for Christmas, scarves, hats, heavy coats. But no one was talking, there was no sound of laughter, it was just a silence. As the tram pulled away with a soft creaking noise, complete silence. He sat down opposite an elderly woman holding a small paper parcel, and she smiled at him. He said to her, "Oh, cold night to be out, love." And she just nodded and smiled faintly. She smelt of coal smoke and peppermint. It was the smell that took him back to his youth. She smelled of his grandma. The tram carried on its way through the city, past dark factories and past the streets Martin knew, only the streets that night didn't quite look right. There was what looked to be flickering lamps instead of the modern street lights. Shop signs he should have recognised just weren't there. There was a cinema, only there should have been a car park there. He knew there should have been a car park there. At first he thought it was the mulled wine. He probably had a bit too much of it, but something was nagging at him. It was then he noticed the conductor. He wasn't wearing a uniform, just a long coat and a cap pulled down low. The conductor came down the aisle, clicking a brass ticket punch. When he reached Martin, he looked rather aggravated and he paused. "You're not meant to be on this one, lad. You're going to have to get off at the next stop." Martin was rather abashed at this, but then he looked around again, and this time he saw it. Faces just a bit too pale, eyes reflecting the lights just a fraction too slowly. People who looked like they stepped out of another century and another time entirely. There were steel workers, factory girls. There was a soldier with a First World War cap tucked under his arm. This wasn't a tram for the living, but all these souls looked to be headed home. And he looked around. Then the tram stopped with a bit of a soft sigh. Martin was quite panicked at this point as the conductor opened the door and said to him, "Your stop, lad." Martin didn't argue. He stepped out of the tram, out into the cold night air, and realised he was outside Sheffield Cathedral at that tram stop there. He looked behind him, looked around, and this tram, this old-fashioned tram, the kind that trundled the streets of Sheffield in the 1920s and 30s, just shimmied its way out of existence. It was going to put the whole thing down as an alcohol fever dream, till he felt something in his pocket. It was a small cardboard ticket, an old-fashioned tram ticket, and it was punched December 24th, 1934. So if you're out in Sheffield this Christmas and you hear a tram coming when the track should be quiet and the tram should have stopped for the evening, let it pass, because some journeys are not meant for the living. And some souls are just trying to get home for Christmas. Thank you again for all your support this year. Got some fantastic events lined up for next year. Find them all at strangebritain.eventbrite.com. Whatever you do for Christmas, keep it strange and have a Merry Christmas. And here's to 2026.